Welcome to Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast, episode 108. Hi, I'm Jill. Thanks for joining us today.
And I'm Chris. Jill and I are your co-hosts and the founders of the Becoming Ellie community.
I know you're wondering why we're called Becoming Ellie. Ellie was the Norse goddess of aging who wrestled Thor and beat him. Chris and I thought, hey, we want to be like Ellie.
You can find out more about us at the website becomingellie.com, and Ellie is spelled E-L-L-I.
Be sure to sign up for our newsletter when you're at the website. That way, you'll know about new episodes and anything else that's new with the Becoming Ellie community.
You can also find us on Facebook, a private Facebook group, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, and LinkedIn.
Chris, our guest today is incredible. She really motivated me.
Yes, Deirdre Hewitson is quite the adventurer. Her stories are amazing.
Let's go to the podcast. Say yes more often than you say no, and try pretty much everything at least once. Pretty much, because some things, those that will harm you, aren't worth trying. These are the words Deirdre Hewitson lives by.
Deirdre is a freelance photographer, editor, and writer who lives in Cape Town, South Africa. Her blog is called The Journal of the Reluctant Runner, and you can follow Deirdre on Instagram under the name Running, Climbing, Laughing Yogi.
Over the years, Deirdre has taken up scuba diving, bicycle racing, water skiing, paragliding, whitewater rafting, and running.
Now, at 61 and about 10 marathons later, she has added trail running, climbing, hiking, and yoga to the mix of regular activities and will say yes to pretty much any other adventure that you might suggest.
I think it's so great that technology allows us to talk. I only found you because one of our Becoming Ellie members posted that you are her hero. What seems sort of funny to me is that she's in Norway, you're in South Africa, and Chris and I are in Ohio in the United States.
Yes, thank you, Deirdre, so much for joining us, and we're really excited to get to talk to you.
Wow, that actually makes me sound like a whole other person. Thank you for contacting me. That was just such an amazing surprise. I started that Instagram account during lockdown, really. And my main reason for starting it was because I always end up with so much younger people. All the things that I do, they're all people in their 20s and 30s. And there's this little old lady. And I can think, well, where are the people my age, you know? And I thought, well, Instagram is a great way of connecting. And I thought I'd start this account to try and connect with women my age who do the things I do. And here you guys are, which is just incredible.
Right. Yeah. And I will tell our listeners that they definitely need to go find you on Instagram because you're obviously a professional photographer, but your photographs are just stunning, just beautiful.
Oh, amazing. Just amazing. Yes.
Chris and I are like, look at this.
I live in a photogenic area as well, though. It does make a difference.
Well, that helps. Yeah. So, very lucky. And then speaking of that, your blog is called Journal of the Reluctant Runner. And yes. Are you actually a reluctant runner? Because we just said that you've completed 10 marathons.
I am actually a reluctant runner. Yes, I really have to shoehorn myself out the door. I've become better, but I started running at 53 only. I used to be a walker, walked long distances. I walked daily, power walking, and loved it. Walking made me feel really powerful and strong, and it just was a great way to energize the day. And then my husband, who was a runner, agreed with his running buddy to go to New York to run the New York Marathon. He said, well, come along for the ride. I said, well, if I'm going all the way to New York, to the New York Marathon, I'm doing the New York Marathon. And I started training, walking, power walking 30 Ks and did my 20 miler and whatever. Went to New York and I walked the New York Marathon, which was the most phenomenal experience.
Wow.
Runners, to be in New York and go through Central Park and across all the boroughs and the bridges, that was and the crowds, I've never seen anything like it. 1 million people turn up to support.
I have never been to the New York Marathon, but yes.
Oh man, I saw a South African there with the flag, and I just ran off the course and hugged her. I was high-fiving babies and high-fiving dogs. It was just phenomenal. And I walked this thing in 6 hours, and I was really proud of my achievement. I was like, came in. It was dark in Central Park, and there were still people cheering and crowding, and it was just, and then, the space blanket and the poncho, and then I had to make my way from the finish line to the hotel on my own, and that was a bit of a downer because I got so lost, and it was so cold, and all the roads were closed. But anyway, we came back to Cape Town after this amazing experience, and of course, everybody wanted to hear about it, and my husband was the big hero because he'd run his first marathon. And he had to do a PowerPoint at work, and everybody wanted to know about it. And when people asked me, oh, so you did the New York Marathon, I would say, yes, but I walked it for some reason. I don't know why it was I finished the marathon. That was good enough. But I would say I walked it. And people would just dismiss me and turn back and talk to my husband because he'd run it. And I was like, well, that's it. I'm going to start running. I will run 5Ks, and that's all I wanted to do. Is I wanted to run 5Ks without stopping, without crying, without vomiting. And I went and I downloaded the Couch to 5K app, and I got out there, and I was so embarrassed about my running and about the shape I was in at the time that I would go at night so nobody would see my jiggly bum.
Oh, that's exactly what I did. I did the Couch to 5K, and I would go out at 10 o'clock in the evening and run in my neighborhood so that nobody could see me.
Stupid.
Yeah. Eventually, I just got to the point that I threw my running clothes on and ran in the middle of the day. But
exactly.
But yeah, I understand that.
So then I could still not run a full 5K. So I was sort of walking, running, and doing the park run. And I came home one day after a park run, and the TV was on, and the Rome Marathon was on TV. And I said, that's what we should do. We should do the Rome Marathon. And my husband said, sure, yeah. This was in 2014. Well, when March 2015 came, I said, right, are we ready to do this marathon? He said, no. I didn't think you were serious. So, of course I was serious. So my daughter, who was then, I think, 23, I said to her, okay, you're running a marathon. And we joined a running group called Embark and started training and went to Rome, and we ran the Rome Marathon, the two of us. And that was it. That kind of set the ball rolling. In that year, 2015, I actually wrote down here, it was, no, not 2015, 2016, the following year, I ran 3 marathons, 4 half marathons, 2 30Ks, and I did a 3-day stage trail, of which 2 days were marathons, and I attempted an ultra. So,
wow. What happened to just running a 5K? That's amazing.
And it changed my life. Running changed my life completely. It just made me address the way I ate. It made me address the way I drank. It made me address the company I keep. And years later, it's a complete transformation. It's just, and because I faced so many fears to do this running, standing the night before marathon is just pure anxiety. The morning is just, I need to vomit. I need to go to the toilet 25 times. It's just all a disaster. And you just build so much resilience and confidence. And I used to say, well, I gave birth for 17 hours. I was in labor for 17 hours. I can do anything after that. But actually, you forget that. Marathon's a different thing. And attempting an ultra and an ultra trail where you just want to sit down on the pavement or sit down on a rock and say, this is it, I'm done. And you don't. You keep going. And each time you run, you want to run better than the last time. So what can I do differently? And that was when I addressed my drinking. Because living in Cape Town, we've got winelands. Wine is water. There's wine with every meal. If they could have it with breakfast, they'd have it with breakfast. And so, of course, 1 or 2 glasses of wine with dinner in the evening, and the next morning you go and run and you're not feeling so great. And it's like, well, I've got to give up one of the two. It's either running or drinking, and so I'm still running.
Okay. So even just having one glass of wine would affect your running.
As you grow older, that glass of red wine starts just, and it just became easier. So I gave up drinking 4 years ago.
Okay.
I was out running, and I had forgotten to turn around. And so I ended up running 17 Ks instead of the 5 or the 10 or whatever my plan was. It was just so much longer than I wanted to. And on the way back, I was motivating myself to finish this run by the dinner I was going to have out at a restaurant with this particular glass of white wine that I liked. And this white wine was calling me home. And I arrived home, and my husband didn't feel like going to dinner, and there was no white wine in the fridge. And he was in a mood, and he said, well, have red wine. So, well, I don't want red wine. I want white wine. And so I took out a bottle, and I had the corkscrew in my hand and the bottle in my hand. And I said, that's enough. And I just put it down. And I was never going to not drink ever again. I was just going to stop for a bit. And 10 days became 30 days. And then, of course, my competitive streak kicked in, and there was another app for that. And I downloaded I Quit Drinking. And so I kept track of the days, and then it became 60. I thought, well, I can do 90. I thought, well, then I can do 100. And then eventually it was just, this feels so good. I just never started again. It's easier to just say, no, I don't drink, than I'm not drinking tonight, or okay, just one, or it just takes all the admin out of it. I just don't drink anymore. And now it's just, I tried a taste once, and it tasted like petrol. So it's okay.
It tasted like what? I'm sorry, I missed that.
I took a taste of a really good wine, took a sip, and it was like petrol going down, like diesel.
Oh,
it was
wow.
Just disgusting. I don't need to reacquire the taste. It's okay.
Well, I know definitely alcohol affects my sleep. And that sleep is something that I'm really challenged about, trying to really get, good deep sleep and all of that. But back to running. What was the most memorable race you've ever done?
Oh, well, New York stands out, and Rome stands out.
Yes.
I did a massive thing 2.5 weeks ago.
Ooh.
It's called the Kromrivier Beast, which translated is the Crooked River Beast. And it was 44 kilometers. I really should have brought my calculator so I can work out.
Yes, we are those people.
Over 6 peaks in the Cederberg. So 2020, we had massive lockdown, like hard lockdown, draconian lockdown. We weren't allowed to leave our houses. We weren't allowed to exercise. So 2020 was a write-off. In 2021, I did a stupid thing. I decided to go back to school and study fashion design. And don't say that's wonderful, because it ended in tears. So we just will move on. So I had 2 years of really not doing any proper, real endurance exercise. And I saw this thing pass my way on Instagram, and I thought, this is a nice big challenge. This is scary. They say you must have something that excites and terrifies you in equal parts. And this was really it. Just like, okay, this thing I'm signing up for. And I was really excited for it. And I was excited for the training, and I was excited for getting in the mountain. And then I started seeing these videos of what the thing is really like, because they would start posting these little videos on Instagram. I was like, oh no. And then anxiety kicked in. It's like, this is so much bigger than I'm capable of. But I couldn't convince anyone to go with me. So I did the trip 4-hour drive out to the Cederberg on my own. And I couldn't organize accommodation. So I had my little hiking tent that I had to pitch in the wind and the rain.
Oh, no.
I got my gas stove and realized I didn't bring gas. So I had to light a fire in the rain to boil some water on and make some supper.
Oh, my gosh.
And then the rain came down, and I lay in my little tent with the rain pouring down. I think, I must not turn up for this thing. This is going to be so bad. But I couldn't not turn up, because I got that far. I had to at least turn up. And then once I got going, and it was pouring with rain. It was so cold, and I was right at the back. I'd arrived late, and everybody had run off already. All these trail dogs, racing snakes, fit athletes.
Wow.
And here's the little old lady at the back trying to keep up, or at least see them in the distance. And the first peak was just terrible. It's like, okay, this is not going to work. Got over the first peak, got to the foot of the second peak, and I told the sweepers, look, this is it. I can't do this. I'm turning around. I'm heading home. And they said, okay, well, that's a pity, but we have to go up this peak anyway to go and tell the marshal sitting up there that he can come down. Otherwise, he's going to sit in the storm the whole day. And so I looked at this peak, and this peak had been looming over me for the months that I'd been preparing for this thing. It's like, well, I'm here. I may as well go up. So I went up the second peak, and going up, I just started feeling energized. And it was still raining, it was still cold, and all these people coming down, and they were so excited, and they're saying, it's not far, it's just over there. You know how runners are so enthusiastic. Mm-hmm. And I got to that peak, and I came running down. It's like, okay, let's just push on a little bit further. And then I thought, well, the third peak, I'm going to go around. I'm not going to go up. And then I kind of went up by accident. And then it's just, 6 peaks later, I came in stone last. It took me 12 hours, 14 minutes. And I came in, I thought they were going to sweep me at every point, and they just let me keep going. It rained until 3:00 in the afternoon. From 6 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon, it just rained incessantly. And then the sun came out, and there was a rainbow. And it was just me and these 2 sweepers, these 2 young guys who were just amazing, who just wouldn't let me give up. They just made me run. They just pushed me. We got down the last peak, and there was a white van waiting. I thought, okay, no, they're going to take me off the trail with 2 kilometers to go, like a mile to go. And no, he turned up to light my way with the headlights because it was dark.
Oh, wow.
And so I came shuffling in, and all the people in their tents were watching me coming through this last strip, and all the children were cheering, and they were running ahead. This way, you've got it, this way. The last few meters were up a little grassy slope. I mean, was that necessary? They'd gathered all the finishers. They were all sitting at the tent with their beers, and they'd all got up and lined up on either side of the finish line. And they were cheering me. They were chanting, Deirdre, Deirdre, Deirdre. And as I came running, they were cheering and high-fiving me. It was the most magnificent finish for a loser. It was like Kipchoge, had come and just crashed the marathon record. It was just phenomenal. And it was just such a huge mental obstacle and a huge physical obstacle that I've signed up for next year.
Good for you. Oh my gosh, that's wild. That's wonderful.
Wow.
No, it's just, the highs and lows of distance running, the terror, the absolute terror of, and I've not put a name to what the terror is yet. I don't know if it's just fear of failure, or if it's fear of the pain, but it can't be because I've been through it so many times. I don't know if it's fear of shame. I don't know. We put such things on ourselves that come from childhood, I think. We just don't know what we're carrying sometimes. But that absolute anxiety to getting going and pushing through every ache and pain and obstacle and fatigue and whatever comes at you, and crossing the finish line, and just that feeling of crossing the finish line. It's just, I don't know, double the pain, double the endorphins. I don't know. It's just, you're just ready for the next one. It's just so addictive.
Yeah.
I keep saying I've done my last marathon. I'm getting, I should just do sort of 5Ks a day and just, then I sign up for something huge.
There's
again.
something about those endorphins that just really keep you going, especially when you're overcoming such a huge challenge like that.
Yes.
That's amazing. Is there anything that you've wanted to do that you haven't done yet?
We have a race in Cape Town called the Ultra Trail Cape Town. It's, I did attempt it in that big year, 2016. It was a crazy year for me. My mom had died at the beginning of that year, and my father was sort of really badly losing his mind. He died the following year. So I turned up for that guy, and I managed to get halfway before they said, okay, you stop here. I knew I was going to be swept. I was injured. I was doing it in absolute agony. I was hurting myself. So it was the right thing to stop, but I was devastated.
Sure.
That you've got yourself mentally prepared as you're going towards this next station where is a cutoff and you've missed it and it's, and yet when they say it, it's like, it's no.
Right.
So that guy's hanging over me to get back to go and finish. And then we had in mind to do the Reykjavik Marathon.
Oh.
We have this thing about if we travel somewhere, we have to run a marathon there. It's a rule that I've started making.
I was thinking a 5K where you visit might be a good hobby.
I can't do that. So I wanted to see the Blue Lagoon in Iceland.
Yeah.
And so it was, well, if we go and see the Blue Lagoon, is there a marathon nearby? And of course, there's a Reykjavik Marathon. And then lockdown came and whatever. So that hasn't happened yet, but that's still sort of dangling there.
Boy, that'd be quite the race to run.
Yes, it would. Beautiful.
How do you train for your races? Do you have what's your schedule like? Do you have a training plan that you follow?
So this is where the reluctant runner comes in, you see. I'm undercooked for every run. I have this running group that I run with. It's a paid group. I don't have friends who will do the things I do.
Okay.
My daughter can't be convinced anymore. I used to be able to convince her and her boyfriend to go all over the country with me, all sorts of trail runs, and they've just learnt the word no. I just they have their own lives now. It's understandable, but so I now have to buy friends. This group is great. The coach is fantastic. So we've got hill training on a Thursday, and a long run on a Saturday, and then Monday is an extra run. Tuesday's track, which I don't go to because every time I do track, I pull a glute muscle or hurt myself in some way. So I just don't do track. So I'll never be fast. I can keep going, but I'm never going to sprint.
Okay.
And I run on my own. I do a Sunday run and a Wednesday run. And then, of course, there's the mountain, lots of vertical getting up the mountain. I'm really close to, I can either walk up the road to just a section here, or I can just drive through town and I'm right at the mountain. Lots of really great trails just to get some hill training in. So we usually take sort of a 18-week program and build up the distance, just starting from sort of shortish runs, 10, 12 Ks, and then building up until the 20 miler, which is about 2 or 3 weeks before the marathon. And then it's the marathon, and then it's what's the next thing?
That's great. You've added trail running to your activities. And how does that compare to running on the road?
It's harder and it's easier, bizarrely.
Yeah, how so?
So the road is a monotonous slog. It's the same. And so you pick up those injuries, those repetitive stress injuries from just, the same surface. What I love about trail running, so what's hard about trail running is the up, because you don't have any trail that's flat. It's up. And then the downhills hit your knees as well. So that's quite tough. And different trails have different things. So it's always changing. And I love that it's always changing. So you've got to stay awake. You can't zone out as you can on the road. Sometimes you're scrambling. Sometimes you just have to walk because you've got to pick your way over rough terrain. And, if you're not that young anymore or that agile, you're not leaping over logs. You're climbing over them. And I love the trail running community. It's just a different breed of person who does trail running to road running. There are no aid stations on our trail runs. You've got to carry your own water and carry your own food. And there's nothing dropped on the ground. There's a sense of protecting the environment amongst trail runners. And they're all completely crazy, which is wonderful. And they tend to start a little bit later. Road runs start terribly early, 6 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. Trail runs start a bit later because you actually need some sunlight to see where you're going.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, so I do like a bit of a line sometimes.
Is your running group that you belong to, is that all road running? Or
it's all road, yes.
Okay.
So I do most of it. There are some trail running groups. There's a Wednesday evening group that I can join, which is Chicxu Trail. It's just all women, which is really great. It's just a free group that they started. And then there's Tuesday Trails, which is also another trail running group. And I managed to convince some poor woman to run with me from time to time. She hikes with me mostly, but we do some trails together as well.
Oh, have you done any races with trail running?
Oh, yes, all the time. So because I run on my own, it was safer to just sign up for races because then it's organized and there is a bit of water sometimes and,
someone knows you're out there.
Someone knows you're out there, yeah. And we have great trail runs. We have a massive trail running season, usually in winter. We've got all these wine farms. They're all trail running and wine are the same thing, basically. They go together because most of the trail runs are organized on wine farms.
Oh.
So yeah, lots of trail running races and 2-day races, 3-day stage races. Yeah, they're great. And we have great ones in our nature reserves as well. Whale of Trail was a big one that I did. That was also over mountains and then a long stretch along a very soft sandy beach.
Ooh.
It was a 53-kilometer one, and that is actually a hiking trail that one does over 2 days and sleeps over in a hut. But once a year they have it as a trail run, which you run it in 1 day. Just magnificent, beautiful mountains, and then you come over the mountain and there's the sea. It's just incredible. And then yes, we have the Addo, which is through the elephant park. So you actually run through the reserve with elephants.
Oh my gosh.
Back around you. And yeah, we've got incredible trail runs here. I want to do them all. But my biggest regret is that I took so long to get to running. If I just started in my 40s, at least I would have had 20 strong years of running. I started in my 50s. It's all a decline from here.
Sounds like you're really making up for lost time, though. You have done something called the 13 Peaks Adventure. Can you tell us about that?
Okay, so that again was born out of lockdown. We have a super trail runner called Ryan Sands. He's run a lot of your ultra runs in the States. He's done, I think he's done Leadwater.
Oh.
He's done a few of the big ones, the 100-milers on your side of the world. And with lockdown, he was like, what do I do with myself? And he started mapping out a little sketch of his favorite peaks and linking them. And so you start just up the road from me at Signal Hill, and then you go Lion's Head, you go up Table Mountain, across Table Mountain, down, then there are 2 peaks, and then the next. And you go all the way around until you get back to Signal Hill again. And what it started out was a trail run where they were trying to do it as fast as possible. So it's 103 kilometers in total. And the top trail runners just do it in less than a day, in less than 24 hours.
Wow.
They just sprint through it. Through the night, they just keep going. And then it just became a thing that everybody in Cape Town was doing. So you were either running it. The rule is that you have to start again where you stop. So if you go up a peak and come down and you go home, whenever you come back again, whether it's next year or tomorrow, you start back where you came down and you carry on going until you've done all 13 peaks in sequence.
In sequence.
My plan was to run it with my friend, but then we got a little bit impatient and we didn't want to be bothered with all this training nonsense. So we just hiked it. It's just a really amazing gift, this 13 peaks that Ryan gave to Cape Town and probably the greater South Africa as well, because it's on social media. So everybody is egging each other on. Everybody is encouraging each other to do this thing. Children have done it. Whole families have done it. Elite athletes have done it. People have made it a massive thing. I think somebody did it 7 times in a row.
Oh, my.
Wow.
No, just insane. 2 other guys turned it into a triathlon. So they swam to Robben Island, which is 7 kilometers, then got on their bicycles and cycled 105 kilometers, and then they did the 13 peaks.
Oh, my goodness.
All in a row.
So I want to say that 103 kilometers is 64 miles.
That will be about right, yes.
Wow, that's incredible. So these peaks, how high are they?
So the highest one, I think, is just on 1,000 meters.
Okay.
So they're
they're mountains. They're not like just hills.
No, they're not little molehills. No, they're mountains. It's not the Dolomites, but yeah, it's sizable. It's an achievement. When you've done it, you feel like you've done something. So I'm ready to do it again. I'm just looking for a victim I can drag with me. No one is stepping up yet.
Your friend who did it with you before isn't.
She's keen to do it again, but she still has quite young children. One's at school and one has just finished school, and she's got a bit more on her plate than I do. I have a bit more freedom now that everybody's left home and no one needs me anymore. Right.
So you just need to find someone to do it with you.
Yeah, I'm thinking of doing it solo.
Wow.
But it's a little bit dangerous on our mountains in terms of muggings, and it seems a very senseless thing to go and have, get yourself hurt just because you want to.
So I will remind you that your motto was to try pretty much everything, because some things will harm you.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you don't do the harmful ones. Yeah, it is a thing to go with the buddy system is always a good idea. Plus, it's got to be a little bit lonely to do, 100 kilometers by yourself.
You would be surprised. No. I revel in that time on my own.
Okay.
Which is just as well, because I'm usually at the back on my own. I'm either too slow for the fast people or too fast for the slow people, or I'm just too slow. But I tend to be on my own for hours at a stretch.
I see.
On these trails. Unless I'm obviously with a group and we're hiking or running together. But if I'm doing a big race, I tend to be on my own. And I'm very happy just in my own head, trudging the trails. And it does help to have someone with you too when you start flagging and you start walking when you should be running, to have someone with you to say, okay, come, let's run now. Because once you get into the motion of walking, it's very hard to pull yourself out of it.
Yes.
So having people with you for that is great. But I'm not afraid of hours on my own on the mountain. That's just, I love that.
Well, I hope you find someone who will do it with you.
Yeah, there will be someone. They're waiting. They're listening to this and they're saying, I must contact her.
That's right.
How did you handle the food while climbing the mountains? Did you carry things with you?
Yes. When I'm hiking, I do luxury packing because it doesn't matter how heavy the pack is. So I will carry sliced mango in a cooler bag. So I have ice cold mango at the top of the mountain, and I'll carry a flask of coffee and biscuits, and I'll make myself a burger that I can eat along the way. So it's a whole meal. When I'm running, you can't really tolerate that much food. So it's this last Kromrefjord Beast I did on 5 marshmallows. Yes, 5 marshmallows. That's what I ate.
Wow.
I packed a ton of food. I carried such a heavy bag. I had bananas. I had all sorts of stuff. I carried so much food, and all I could stomach was a marshmallow every few hours.
So 44 kilometers on 5 marshmallows.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah. Well, you're right. Your stomach does kind of shut down when you're running.
Yes.
There's no question. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you eat too much while you're running, you just are going to make yourself sick.
No, it just causes all sorts of distress.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask one more thing about the 13 Peaks. Were there other women in their 50s and 60s along the trail doing it with you, or ahead of you or behind you, what have you?
Everybody does it in their own time.
Yeah.
So at any time. I rarely notice anyone like me doing.
I'm just wondering, were there many women?
I didn't actually see anyone. I meant to go and look on the log if they have the ages.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have the ages.
I'm just curious because, I don't know, it's fun to go with folks different ages and your age.
So that's a good question, too, with some of the races, the trail races that you do. Are there other women in your age group for the results?
The ones who are people who were always athletes.
Oh.
I've noticed. So they're really fast, really strong, sinewy, amazing runners who've just always run. But it's a handful.
It is amazing to me, even when there's only just a few people in the age group, that some of them are really fast.
Yes.
I've never been a fast runner, and I like to run, but I am not fast. So
no, I've never been a runner. I actively avoided running my entire life.
Yeah. When I went to your Instagram account, and as I said, your photos are just gorgeous there, but you have some wonderful yoga photos. And so you're obviously quite the yogi. How long have you been practicing yoga?
Also not very long. So yoga is something I've always loved and always wanted to do properly, as in a lifestyle. And I could just never find a yoga teacher or a yoga studio that I could identify with. It was always something really flaky in a hall somewhere, or I just never gelled. And so I would do bits of yoga along the way and do some yoga at gym, and did Pilates for quite a number of years. And then my daughter was going to some yoga classes at a studio down the road, and she convinced me to come and join. And I was just too busy. I couldn't get there. And then it was just after my dad died that I joined, and I just found a home there. The style of yoga was just exactly what I needed. The people were just the people I needed. And I got completely, it just was part of my life. I did yoga almost every day.
Oh, wow.
And then I decided to do the yoga teacher's training course, which is probably the best money I've ever spent on myself. It was just, in terms of all the unpacking, because both my parents had died by then, and there was it was a difficult time, when your parents are just suddenly not who they used to be, and then they're gone and there's no more time to discuss things, or, and this was just really a cathartic, nurturing, growing experience, this 20 weeks or however many weeks it was of doing this yoga teacher training. I'll never teach. I don't think I'm interested in becoming a yoga teacher, but one can't say never. Things change. But that just really solidified sort of the practice for me, just doing this teacher's training, and just the discipline of spending an entire weekend doing hours of yoga. You do 2-hour session of yoga, and it takes you into sort of a different space. I've been a little bit off the yoga the last sort of 2 months or so, but I can really feel in my body I need it. It's almost as if your yoga muscles start twitching. It's like you've not paid attention to me. And it makes a huge difference to running, because you get that core strength and you get that stability. You've got the balance, and you've got the focus, and the breath, just reminding you to come back to your breath. And as much as you should, it's really just in the yoga practice that kind of reinforces that. I got my husband to do yoga for a while as well, and because he was so anti it, it's just stretches. It's not just stretches. Right. And he felt the difference in his running as well. So it really, as an all over strengthening, conditioning, apart from everything else that yoga is, it's just such a valuable tool to add to.
You said you went to a studio, and it was the people in the studio that you needed at the time. Is that your favorite kind of yoga? Was it a certain type of yoga?
Yes.
And what's your favorite kind?
So they call it power yoga.
Power yoga. Okay.
Yeah. So it's quite a fast flow yoga. There's no sort of, yin yoga is very slow, and you hold stretches for longer. The power is you just move from warrior one to, into the next position quite quickly, but it's also heated. So the same as Bikram, which is heated, but I think it's just slightly less hot than Bikram. And Bikram has its set 26 asanas, whereas the power yoga, each teacher sort of creates her own flow, his own flow. And the music is a bit different. So yes, I enjoy the physical aspect of it, that it's hot, that I'm pouring with sweat, and that it's quite exhausting, that you need to push through your own limits, your own boundaries, and your head that says, I can't do this. I'm so lousy at this. I'm so terrible at this. Again, and that helps again with the endurance running. It's getting through those obstacles that we place in front of ourselves, that voice that says you can't do it.
You really do like challenges, don't you?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that until very late in life.
That's wonderful.
Hey, in our introduction, we mentioned that you said yes to any opportunity or adventure. Besides doing the 13 Peaks adventure, what other wild adventures have you done?
My first time that I realized I say yes before I've thought about saying no was when some guy said to me, I'm going skydiving tomorrow. Do you want to come along? And I said, yeah, great. And so I went and jumped out of a plane. And that was back in the old days when we had round parachutes.
Okay.
Do you remember that? They weren't kites. They were round parachutes like in the war. And so I did a few static line jumps, which is when, the parachute is opened for you. You've got to climb out of the plane, stand on the step, hold on to the wing, and then they say go, and then you let go and you leap off backwards, and then a line that's attached to your chute pulls the chute out and opens it. And then you've got to float yourself down and use these toggles to pull left and right to get yourself down. So I did, I think, 8 static lines, and then I did a free fall, which was probably the most terrifying thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah, I bet.
Because then you're standing on the step outside of the plane, holding onto the wing, and there's nothing attached to you, and you've got to pull your own chute. I have jumped off a bridge. I've done some very big trail runs. So there was one called the Snowberg Traverse, which was the 3-day thing. And that was in the middle of the Karoo. That's just arid, and it was at altitude, and it was blistering hot. And eventually I was just so hot, I had a sarong over my head with a hat on top. And I was almost delirious with heat. And there was no one in front of me and no one behind me. And I was out there for hours, probably 8 hours a day to get to the end. On the last day, I stepped on a snake.
Oh!
So yes, that was quite a big one as well. That was a lot of fun.
You stepped on a snake. Was it poisonous or no? What happened?
It was a little wriggly guy, and I stomped my foot down and I saw it right against me, like writhing to get away. And I'd never seen a snake like this. And I went and Googled it, red and black snake. And I can't remember what it's called, but it's not poisonous, but it can hurt you and you can feel very sick. Okay. So it wouldn't have been pleasant. Not advisable.
You obviously hurt it before.
I think we we just touched. I think both of us left unscathed.
Okay, good. Okay.
And then I very, very desperately needed a bush after that.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. I'm thinking about when Chris injured herself, thinking it was a stick on the road, and she thought it was a snake, and she jumped.
I was thinking about another time when you and I were training together, and I just saw the snake, and I jumped so much and awkwardly, and I ended up messing up my Achilles right before one of our races. Oh, yeah. Snakes. I definitely have a fear of snakes because of the wiggliness. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think we're just so conditioned into believing that they are going to bite. Then if they see you, they're going to bite, and you're going to die.
So with the heat, like you said, it was a 3-day event, 8 hours a day with the heat. How did you prevent heat exhaustion or overheating, to the point, because I've had problems with heat, too much heat, and get to the point where there's chills and you can't get your heart to go back down. It just stays high. How do you deal with that?
I love the heat. Okay. So that helps. I think the hot yoga helps because you can condition to the heat. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then of course I carry electrolytes.
Yes.
The rehydrate solution that I put in my water, which helps. I don't seem to be that badly affected by the heat.
That's great.
Strangely. I mean, I feel it and I feel fatigued, but it's not, it's not such a huge issue, I don't think, for me.
Yeah, I never used to have a problem, but as I've gotten older, I can see it's an issue. For me, for bike riding particularly, that's when it happens to me. But wow.
So you've sort of mentioned this, but were you physically active as a young person?
Absolutely not.
When did you get interested in all this?
I think my mom just absolutely had an aversion to any form of physical activity. And she just convinced, if you said you wanted to do something, she said, no, why would you want to do that? You'll get tired. Don't do that. She just didn't want us to do anything that would exert ourselves. And so I used to climb trees and sort of run around and, as kids do, but I never actually played a sport growing up. We didn't have bicycles growing up until we were older. I played a bit of hockey in high school, but I really didn't enjoy it. I tried a bit of running, but didn't love it. So no, sports just weren't a thing at all. I used to hide in the art class and watch the gym class from the window. So
that actually, the things you like to do now are things that you sort of do on your own, whereas hockey is a team sport. So I can sort of see that not being a good fit for you.
Probably, yeah.
And so you did not really come to all this until, I know you said you were in your 50s when you started running, but you did do some of the other things when you were younger, like jumping out of planes and...
Yes.
Okay.
In our introduction of you, we listed a lot of activities, and one of them was scuba diving.
Yes.
Have you done any adventures with that you can tell our listeners about?
We did go to Sodwana Bay, which is sort of a very popular dive site off the sort of northern coast of South Africa, where we swam with a moray eel. But no, scuba diving is just a really magical thing to do.
Do you still do that?
I don't. Yeah, the funny thing is I started scuba diving and then I met this guy who was a scuba diving instructor, and then I married him, and then he stopped diving.
That's funny how that happened. I used to scuba dive, but the last time I did was the month before I got pregnant with my son, who's now 34. So it's been a long time.
Okay.
But
yeah, it's about that long for me.
It's funny how different sports come into play at different times in your life, but I still like to snorkel quite a bit.
Yes.
I want to switch direction just a little bit and talk about food, if that's all right.
Sure.
Do you eat in any particular way? Paleo, vegan, vegetarian?
I stopped eating meat over 30 years ago. Vegetarian, very long term. And as time has gone by, I've become more vegan, but I don't call myself vegan. I'm vegan at home, but if I go to family or if I go to a restaurant, I will choose the vegan options if there are, but otherwise, if there's a bit of cheese on something or, I won't eat the meat, but I'll choose the vegetarian option. So mostly vegan. So I call myself plant-based, but I give preference to vegan. And that's been for a good few years now as well.
And this is another thing you don't have to talk about if you don't want to, but have you ever struggled with your weight?
A little bit at times. So when I left, I was always skinny growing up. Another thing that really troubled my mother, look how skinny you are. Look how skinny you are. Eat something. And then when I left school and started working, suddenly I was sitting in an office and the girls would order things, and from the Greek cafe downstairs, it would be these really greasy sandwiches that were sort of fried in oil. And of course I discovered drinking and partying, and I just packed on some kilos. So I struggled a bit then. So I was about 17, 18 until about 25, 26. I was just yo-yo dieting. We did stupid things in the 70s and 80s with our bodies.
Yeah, we did.
Laxatives and appetite suppressants and weird teas and crazy diets, the Atkins diet and, all that kind of thing. And then same as with drinking, I just one day decided this is ridiculous. I'm stopping any diet and I'm eating what I'm eating, and what will be, will be. And I normalized. As I got to past 45-ish, suddenly things just started looking different.
Yeah.
Just couldn't, what is going on? You know, I was active, I was walking, I was doing things, and I was just expanding. I think I was quite good at disguising in terms of the style of clothing that I wore, because my family maintained I was never fat, but I know I was, because I was 10 kilos heavier than I am now. So yeah, if I look at the New York Marathon pictures, pretty solid. And then when the following year, by the time I did the Rome, or 2 years later, by the time I did the Rome Marathon, my body had changed significantly. So definitely through running, and then getting onto the yoga and regular walks and hikes, I can now pretty much eat more or less what I want. I mean, I still don't, I'm not a huge eater, but I don't go, oh no, I can't eat that, I'm dieting. But yes, there was, when I first started work and when I kind of hit the menopause time, I think about 5 years or so, that I just really was just so frustrated with, like, there was just nothing I could do. It just didn't seem to make any difference.
That sounds like such a familiar story, because I found the same thing, sitting in an office, working on the computer. And then as your age changes, your body starts to change. It's just so frustrating. And I ended up going on a weight loss journey, and now for many years trying to maintain the loss. I find that maintaining a weight loss can be as difficult as losing the weight.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have any tips? I know some of our listeners are quite interested in hearing what your tricks are and whether it's a trick, I don't know, but
I think I will sound like the world's biggest bore, but really alcohol, your body doesn't want it. It's just empty calories. You don't realize how much you're taking in. It's like, you're having a meal and you're having a glass of wine and it seems like nothing, but it's 120 calories in a glass of wine. If you have a second glass, that's 240 calories on top of the meal you're having. And then, you might have dessert, and you do that over a few weeks, you're adding so many extra calories that you just don't need.
You're right. There's no nutrition in them, but
no. And it leads you to sort of start picking on things, like you'll have some snacks with your wine. People never just have a glass of wine. There's always a bowl of something that goes with the wine, which is added calories. And then I really think dairy, curbing the dairy made a huge difference.
So you don't eat Greek yogurt or?
No. Once you give up cheese, because cheese is really, really hard to give up.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something about cheese. A lot of people struggle with giving up cheese.
Well, it's in all my recipes, I think. Right?
No, it's the most delicious thing. I'm just too scared to start drinking again because it's so delicious, and I'm too scared to eat cheese again because it's so delicious. And I really feel once those two things were pretty much out of my diet, I just didn't have a problem with weight again.
And you don't have any problem with gluten or any of the...
No, I'm a carb junkie.
Okay.
I live on pasta, and I'll have pasta every night if I can. Spaghetti, linguine.
Well, that's great.
How do you eat on a given day? Like, what are your meals like? Breakfast, lunch, dinner?
Okay, so I'm not a very routined person.
Okay.
Yeah, I try to. So I can feel now I've been sort of a little bit lazy. So after this big thing that I did 2.5 weeks ago, I've sort of taken a bit of a dip to rest and just eat what I want to. And but normally I would make myself a smoothie with chia seeds in. I'll try to put some vegan collagen in, and I use either almond milk or coconut milk for that, and then fruits and whatever sort of extra superfoods you can put in, and that kind of plugs me really full until lunchtime. Lunchtime, I will probably have some toast with avocado, or what I really like is, you slice sweet potato. I think you have yams. Do you have sweet potato?
We do.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you slice them sort of a little bit, sort of quite 1/4 inch thick, pop them in the toaster.
Oh.
Toast and gets soft on the inside. Put some avocado on top of that, or hummus, and that's a delicious lunch.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I'm going to try that.
and it's low calorie. And then at night, I either do a tray of roast veggies, sort of all the root vegetables and mushrooms and whatever, or I'll make spaghetti with a basil pesto, or I'll make some vegetarian sauce, tomato-based sauce. And then, we've got the Beyond Beef that I'll make a kind of a bolognese with, vegan bolognese. Pasta most nights, smoothies for breakfast, or sometimes I just don't have breakfast. Sometimes can't be bothered. But then I eat quite a bit by sort of 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. I'll have a solid pile of food.
I like the sweet potato idea.
Yeah, I'm gonna steal that. Try that. So, do you have a go-to recipe? Something that you love to make or use when you're short on time and you're in a rush, need dinner.
Well, I have an air fryer, and I love this thing. Everything goes in it. So instead of having to power up my big smeg for 20 minutes to preheat an oven, and then put the veggies in and roast them for 45 minutes and then have all this cleaning to do, I just toss everything. My roast veg, what I do is I put all the veggies in a bowl, sprinkle a bit of olive oil on, drizzle a bit of maple syrup. I like to add cinnamon and some lemon rind.
Ooh.
Pine nuts are always great. And then that goes in the air fryer for 30 minutes, 35 minutes. And then I'll make something on the side with it, like a Beyond Beef sausage or chicken schnitzel, vegan chicken schnitzel, or something like that. So that's always great you can stick it in and it's not going to burn. You can quickly go for a quick 5K run and come back and supper's ready.
Nice.
And pesto is my famous basil pesto. I think that'll be my last meal.
That sounds great. Well, if our listeners want to get in touch with you, how can they reach you?
Via Instagram is great.
Okay.
Very excited when I see a little red flag on Instagram.
And your name on Instagram is?
Running, Climbing, Laughing Yogi. I really should shorten it. I keep thinking I should shorten it, but I don't know which one to lose.
Well, I'll make sure there's a link inside our show notes so that the listeners can click on something. Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so Instagram.
Yes, Instagram's great.
And there's all those fabulous photos there. So I really encourage people.
Yes, come and visit me.
Go check out her Instagram account. Deirdre, it's been so good to talk with you. Thank you for taking the time to chat.
So lovely. Thank you for contacting me.
Oh, you're welcome.
Who is the person in Norway, or will you let me know just so I can?
Yeah. So her name is Ren, and we did an episode. We interviewed her on the podcast. Oh, it's probably been a while now, but
she follows you.
And she's on Instagram, and I don't know where I saw her, but she posted a link to you or something, how you do that.
Yeah. And she's in our Becoming Ellie private Facebook
and she just said, "This is my hero." And so then I snooped around and followed the link and found your Instagram page. And I was like, oh, wow, she's my hero too.
Well, we really try to encourage the Becoming Ellie community to, connect with other women who are wanting to be fit and strong, women over 50, because it's inspiring and it gives you ideas for other ways to have fun while you're being fit.
Yes.
And you are correct that it's sometimes hard to find your peers, your age group, there are plenty of people you can find who are out running and doing trail runs and doing whatever, but they're not necessarily women the same age as you, as we are.
So women the same age as me will be very happy to meet for lunch and very happy to meet for drinks.
Yes.
I want to do other things.
Yeah.
Lunch is nice, but I want to do other things. Yeah. Can we walk and talk?
Yeah.
Yeah, a walk and talk, right? I love doing that. Well, thanks again so much for talking with us and letting us get to know you. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Look forward to meeting all my new friends on Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Deirdre makes me feel like a real slacker. I need to up my running, I think.
Well, she certainly is an adventurer. And, she made me think about that what I miss about doing yoga. And I like her idea of getting back to some more power yoga. And she inspired me to do that. But I'm not going to be jumping out of an airplane anytime soon.
You're not?
No.
I'm probably not going to do that either. I'm not going to jump off a bridge either. But she does make me think I could certainly push a bit on what I'm doing. The trail running to me is really appealing. I really like the idea of trail running.
Right. I like what she had to say when she compared it, the monotony of a road and also the repetitive injury, because I'm a lot more conscious of repetitive injuries than I ever used to be. And so maybe trail running is the right choice, although the routes and everything, you really have to be on your toes the whole time.
Well, that's what she said. You can't just start daydreaming, which is what I do when I'm running on the road or on my bike and hike trail. My mind is usually very far.
Yeah, you just kind of get into a zone and daydreaming.
Yeah.
But I will say she started out to do a 5K and she did couch to 5K and it was only going to be 5Ks, when she started, what was it, at age 53. And now, not even 10 years later, think of the amazing thing, just says yes to everything, doesn't she?
Yes, she does. It's very impressive. I would love to hear if our listeners were also motivated by everything that Deirdre is doing.
Yes. If you want to share your thoughts with us, please leave us a message at our website, becomingellie.com, or on any of our social media sites. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, and LinkedIn.
When you go to our website, be sure to sign up for our newsletter. Also, please join our Becoming Ellie Facebook group.
Yes, the private Facebook group is where we inspire and motivate each other. And it's really a great place for getting inspired.
Yeah, and support. If you have a question, someone will be able to help you figure it out.
Exactly. We'd love to have you join us.
If you enjoyed the podcast, please tell a friend. We would really appreciate that.
Well, it's been so good talking with you today, Jill. See you on the next episode of Fit Strong Women Over 50.
Will do. Bye.
Bye-bye.